Avery Savory Popcorn would like to welcome Temple Howell-Stampley, MD, MBA. She specializes in general internal medicine. She is certified by the American Board of Internal Medicine and joined the UT Southwestern faculty in 1997. Stress Awareness Month has been recognized every April since 1992. So, Dr. Howell-Stampley, what does stress mean?
Thank you for that question. Stress is a natural human response that we have or a natural reaction to an event or a condition that we consider a threat. It could be a difficult situation or it could be a challenge that we are dealing with. And we all experience stress in our lives. It's not just something that certain people deal with. We all have stress in our lives. There are about three primary types of stress. We have acute stress, which is that stress that's short term. Say you are studying for an exam, and so you get anxious about your exam or you encounter a very stressful issue. But what happens then is after that situation is resolved, you tend to go back to a normal, relaxing state. Then you have episodic acute stress. So when you think about that, think about the frontline healthcare workers during the height of the COVID pandemic. They were repeatedly exposed to high stress environments trying to take care of COVID patients, and that stress didn't stop. But then you get into chronic stress, and this tends to be when that stress doesn't go away. So maybe financial issues could be related to a job. So you do not tend to go back to a normal, relaxing state, typically when you're experiencing that episodic acute stress or that chronic stress.
So, can you share some of the common symptoms?
Sure. So when you think about that acute stressful reaction, think about a fight or flight response. So you're walking down a dark alley, you run into someone that's stressful. And so your body goes into action, you get hormones that are secreted, your pupils can get dilated so that more light can come into your eyes and you begin to see things better around you. Your heart rate goes up. Sometimes you'll start sweating because our body temperature tends to go up during stressful situations. Your breathing can change. Poor sleeping habits, maybe difficulty falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep. And when that becomes a pattern, you begin to feel fatigued. You're tired all the time. And a lot of times you can see that happen when you're dealing with a chronic stressful state. Feeling overwhelmed, anxiety, depression, mood swings, burnouts. You heard about a lot of that during the height of the pandemic as well with frontline healthcare workers. And that was due to exposure, recurrent exposure to a high stressful situation. Muscles can tense up. I always say that my stress lies in my shoulders, in my upper back, and in my neck because your muscles can get really tight. And sometimes in those situations, you might get headaches, sometimes related to that muscle tension. Blood pressure can go up. So you would think it would be normal in an acute stressful event, saying walking down that dark alley, running into someone, that your blood pressure might go up. But when you think about that episodic acute stress or that chronic stress, that blood pressure can stay elevated. And we know blood pressure can damage the blood vessels that supply the heart. And so you can go in and develop heart disease as well. And again, back to those hormones that are necessary and that are secreted during stressful events, cortisol. Your eating habits may change, or you may begin to gain weight as well. Sometimes you might get GI symptoms related to stress. So that's kind of an overview of a ton of different symptoms that you can see when you experience stress.
Wow. So sometimes the stress in our lives is not something we have the power to change. So how can we learn to overcome the issues that we can't change?
Well, sometimes you might not be able to overcome those issues, or it may take a while. So a lot of that has to go back to how we cope with the stress in our lives. So stressors will always be there. So we have to look at how we can cope with that. So exercise, get outside, take a walk. There's a huge thing out now called mindful wellness. We're talking about meditation, doing yoga, mindful breathing exercises. I know that sounds really weird, but it's something that people really do. And it's believed that if you begin to focus more on your breathing during those stressful moments, it takes your mind off of those stressful situations that you're dealing with. Again, that may be a short-term fix, but sometimes you need to do that just to kind of recenter. If you're stressed out because you have a big project at work or you're studying for an exam and you're craving time management, maybe you need to work on your time management skills so you can avoid those stressful events. And something that I'm still trying to achieve is that work-life balance. looking at what you're doing with your career and what your home life is and trying to make it all work together. People say it can be achieved. I'm not sure if I've achieved it yet, but that is definitely something we need to strive towards.
Okay, so when you achieve it, I need you to share that with me, okay?
I know. I will probably bottle it and sell it.
And you would be a billionaire.
Absolutely.
So the one last thing I have, me being Avery Savory Popcorn, we know that you're a fan of the Chicago style and the Dallas mix, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that popcorn help you deal with stress?
Well, I would say that the popcorn doesn't help me deal with stress, because if I did that a lot, I'd eat a lot of it, then I'd begin to get that weight gain that we're talking about. The Chicago mix, the Dallas mix, I eat the popcorn because it's so good and so savory, just like your name, Avery Savory Popcorn. If you find that you are drawn to stress eating and it happens to be the Chicago style popcorn, have a period of time where you just go, enough is enough. So a lot of problems we have in life now are because we don't do things in moderation. So I think it's totally fine to have some popcorn, to take it out while you're going to walk and observing nature, while you're sitting around and talking with your friends. All of those things can help distract you from some of the stressors. And I actually purchase the popcorn and take it to my office staff a lot of times, because we've been through a lot of stressful events, especially during the pandemic when we had to transition everything to virtual. So I felt by getting them some popcorn that might help them cope with that better.
So you gave me some really good tips. I'm going to try to use some of that.
I don't know, we can't avoid the stress, right? But we certainly can work on how we respond to it.